Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alandry, and I'm going to be introducing you to the concept of book studies. The purpose of book studies is it allows for multiple topics of interest, can be related to a school-wide goal, and can be subject or grade specific. So what this means is that your school can choose to find a goal for the entire school to do a book study on as a whole school, or that you yourselves and your teachers can decide on subject or grade specific books to read. Choice. Choice can be offered to schools in many ways through a book study. First, you have grade level, interest level, and content or subject level. Choice can look very different in your school based off of groups or grades. As a school, we have many avenues we can go through in order to make our book study successful. And what we're going to do next is we're going to go through the steps of a book study using an example to help us understand how you can pick it and go through each one. So the first step we have is forming our book studies. So here we have a kindergarten and first grade school. Now these two schools, the school decided to do their book study and gave each grade level the ability to pick and choose how they want to formulate their book study. If you look here at kindergarten, they created it into two groups based off of hallway locations, 400 hall and 700 hall. And this was just based off of common planning times and ability to get together. First grade, however, created 4 groups based off of interest levels, and this allowed the teachers to pick and choose which they preferred to read about in order to make their classroom more successful. So we have here a reading instruction group, a social skills and the classroom group, creating meaningful centers group, and a writing workshop group. And they're going to go on to step 2, which is to choose a book and objective. So we look here first at kindergarten. They must choose an area to study for the book study. Then they're going to pick a book for the book study, which will then allow them to create an objective for the book study. So the 400 hallway in kindergarten decided to do a reading book study. They wanted to learn about teaching students to read. So they picked a book title of their own, and they chose for their objective was to compare and contrast book characters. So that when they picked a book study, when they pick the book, they're looking at this standard. They want to find a book that's going to help them better their students for this standard. The 700 hallway chose to do learning through play. And this would be a book that they could choose through centers, finding somebody that's going to help guide them through centers and make their centers better because they want to make sure that they are creating meaningful play in their stations. First grade did not have to choose a subject because they already picked their content. Each group picked their own content already, so they have to just pick a book and create an objective for the book study. So the first group, we have reading instruction group. And they were going to look at a book that helped them to be able to ask their students and help them answer key details in a story. Our second group was social skills, and they chose a book that's going to help them create a calming space in their classroom and how to properly use it. Our third group went to meet the standards during center work, and that's what they chose for their book study. And the last group was a writing workshop book study. And they wanted to create a writing process from beginning to end and help their students through that. So now we have step 3. Step 3, you have to choose how you're going to read the book. So as a group, you must decide whether you're going to do it weekly or bi-weekly. And it's really important that you make sure that you meet at least twice a month in order to make this more meaningful as you're going through the book. You want to make sure you give yourself time to be able to read the book, ask questions appropriately, and also put into action some of the things that you're reading in the book. And for each meeting, you will decide how many chapters to read before the meeting, or you can divide it up into sections depending on how the book is written. Step 4, read and discuss the books. Now there are 2 steps to this process. So first you have outside the meeting. This is when you're doing things individually. You're going to read the book on your own time. You're going to write down your thoughts, questions, and ideas in a notebook or journal. And you're going to have your own mindset on the reading. But understand you are going into the meeting to learn from your peers. So what this is that when you're outside the meeting, you are reading the book that you're supposed to be before you go to the meeting. And you want to write down all of your ideas you have, whether it's questions or this might work, I want to try it, or I don't think this is going to work and why. But like I said in it, you want to go into the meeting understanding that here's your set of what you want to do. But when you start talking to your peers, you need to listen, understand it, and be able to actually gain knowledge from them. Now, in the meeting itself, you want to share insight into the book. You want to ask each other questions and for clarity, and you want to listen and learn from peers in the book study. And the biggest important thing that you have to understand while you're in the meeting is that safety, trust, and understanding is your goal for each meeting. You want to, when you walk into the meeting, you want to know that what you're going to say stays in the meeting and that your friends won't misunderstand you or think something that you said is not appropriate. They want to understand what you're saying. They want to help you get through that. Step 5, evaluate the book and plan for future book studies. So at this point, we've read the book and we've gone through the process. So what do you do next? So you want to decide everything you've read and how you're going to implement it. So at this point, you've read the entire book and you've decided that, you know what, we're going to implement this book fully and we're going to continue going through the process. Or we've decided that it's not the right thing for us and we're not going to implement it. Now what? You want to know where you're going to go from here. You're going to evaluate the impact of the book that had on your classroom and decide if you can go further and read more about the topic. If it was something really, really interesting, you want to go further into what you're reading. What is needed to make it work? So now that you've finished the book study, or you're preparing to do your own book study, we want to talk about what we need to do to make it work. You want to have common time to get together. So as a school or a group of teachers, you want to make sure that you have your time set to get together. And that set time does not change. It's every single time at that time. You want to also have time outside the classroom to read and implement what the group has decided to implement. And like we said before, we want to make sure that we respect our peers as we're going through the process, and we want to have a desire to grow. If you're reading this book, you want to make sure you're doing it to make yourself better. That is the presentation on book studies. Thank you for your time, and I will take any questions. Thank you.